me tell you something, brother. This might be the best OG Kush I've ever had. Ooh. Ooh, yeah. You just said a mouthful, brother. I'm higher than helicopter, but listen though, Hulkster. Young Lurch has been running his mouth on that podcast. Blaze the Bingo Hall podcast needs to show some respect to the veterans, brother. I say we run in there and show Young Lurch and his guest just exactly who the OGs of this game are, What you gonna do, Blaze the Bingo Hall podcast, when the Macho Man and the Hulkster run wild on you? Ooh, yeah. Give me like 10 minutes, though, because I'm really, really stoned. Oh, yeah.
Welcome into Blaze the Bingo Hall. It's your host with the most, Young Lurch. Today, our guest, he is not the jury, maybe the executioner, formerly the judge. You may know him as Dred. Dred, welcome into Blaze the Bingo Hall. Thank you for stopping by.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah, I appreciate you for doing this. I know you're on the run, so we'll get right into it. What first drew you into professional wrestling?
I grew up from a Hispanic family, and so I grew up watching Lucha Libre. And from there, I didn't go in the traditional pipeline of wrestling. Usually, you go in, watch WWF. And I did not watch WWF until watching ECW first.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I kind of got into it through some of the luchadors getting hooked on ECW, and then they went to ECW merch on TV. And I see that, and I wanted to see more of it. And so that became the pipeline for wrestling for me. And the first wrestlers that I kind of gravitated towards, because I kind of watched Lucha Libre, it was just something that my older family was like. It was very colorful, and as a kid, I wasn't super into it. It just looked like people with really bright colored outfits.
Yeah.
But when I started watching ECW, I watched a match with Terry Funk and Cactus Jack, and those two dudes were just so real that it kind of shocked and scared me. And I went to the local mom and pop video store, and they had a whole section for wrestling, and every DVD they had it said Cactus Jack or Terry Funk. I just rented it, and I tell the story about that. I unfortunately never returned one video, which was FMWs with Cactus Jack attacks, and I still have it to this day. And that got me the one of the Deathmatch because I had to see it.
Still racking up the late fees on that one, huh?
Unfortunately, they're out of business now. Hopefully,
So now, hey, it's yours now.
Yeah. It still has the sticker on it too.
Yeah. So with Lucha Libre, was that more of like local Lucha Libre that you were growing up on, or were you like being exposed to like AAA, CMLL, like what?
Yeah, AAA, CMLL was like what we were watching on TV. So yeah.
Okay. And you said it was like older family members that were more into it at that time? They were kind of
my great grandma, my grandma, I got a couple of tios and stuff like that that were into it. My cousins were into it too. And then they got into WWF, and I started watching it because like they started getting into it. But I was already kind of into like Terry Funk.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I kind of was really stoked, especially seeing those guys when they would come to WWF. These guys were awesome.
So Terry Funk and Cactus Jack being some of your early influences, were they some of your influence as well when you started training?
100%. I mean, I think there's nobody tougher and nobody that epitomizes this. I think Terry Funk is the greatest wrestler of all time. Not just because of what he can do to the business and draw money to the business, but how traveled he was, how he was able to connect with audiences in a vast array of emotion, from being hated to being loved, garnering sympathy. And so from all styles too, from a territory style, NWA, AWA, Mid-Atlantic, Smoky Mountain styles, all those kind of styles of wrestling, tag team wrestling with Brett Story, who I'm quite fond of, and he's lovely work for me. But yeah, from that to deathmatch wrestling, yeah, that to me is like, who does that? You know, but nobody can say at the level which Terry Funk can, except maybe Mick Foley,
Yeah.
can wrestle that way. So,
It seemed like a lot of your early gear, it seemed like, was inspired by funk, right? Like a lot of the
always,
tight. Yeah.
yeah, big Funk fan. One of the reasons I ended up getting trained by Paul London was because of his time he spent training Terry Funk at the time. So I really wanted to have that influence and epitomize that in my career. So any way I could always pay homage to Funk's Dory and Terry. I tried my best.
It's crazy that Dory just wrestled a match like that. It's like, what?
Yeah. I talked to Dory. What was it like? I want to say 4 or 5 months ago. It was like just after that. I was like, man, you're mad.
That's nuts. So what was your first match like, and how did that shape your journey in wrestling?
My very first match in front of an audience was a like hardcore match. So I did like, yeah, out the gate I was doing this. I had thumbtacks, and chairs, and, doors and stuff. It was definitely. I knew from the jump I wanted to know if I could do this, because that to me, I always tell people when they ask me why deathmatch wrestling and how much I put my body through in such a short amount of time. Because to me, it was the highest level of competition. When Terry Funk would do deathmatch wrestling, you know, there's rules in professional wrestling. So you're not supposed to have a closed fist. There's rope breaks, there's countouts, there's disqualifications. There's something about what Terry would have do combat in a no rules essentially match. I wanted to see if I could hang like that. So off the rip, I was like, that's the highest form. Just get it out of the way and see if it can happen. Otherwise, this whole wrestling thing, I got to be shaped and right size what it can be. And so, yeah, my first match, once I felt the blood kind of drip down my face, and saw it pouring out of my head, and I didn't panic right away. I knew, you know, I could do this and I could do this. And it kind of took over from there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I've seen you mention that before. Like, you find out really quick, you know, when you see that blood pour out, you feel it, and that raw emotion, everything, you're going to know real quick whether it's for you or if it's not for you.
Yeah, I've wrestled many tough, and it takes nothing away from their technical ability, their strength. It's a different beast when you see a blood. I like to say it's not just to be cool. Blood is the universal currency. You don't have enough blood, you die. You take enough blood from your enemy, he dies, you win. And that's not just in wrestling, that's just in life. And so
it's a crazy way to look at it, yeah, but it's real.
Exactly. It's real. I mean, that's it. The ultimate currency is life, or the money in the world, or things it's all for what? So that you're able to live. All right. It doesn't matter how much money you have, you don't got any blood in your body, you can't do anything. And so people don't have that mindset all the time. So then what happens is, I've seen some really tough technical wrestlers. They get sliced in the head or busted open. You know, they panic, they turn white, they fold, and they start losing. And it's also a different form of training. I mean, I think it was a while ago. I was just talking to someone about this. I was talking to Alex Clono. It was, you know, Michael Phelps got in trouble in the Olympics because he was blood doping, which was like training with not as much blood in his body, and
like
then putting blood back in.
And stuff.
Yeah. And so, guys like that do deathmatch wrestling, we trained and do it a different way. You know, a lot of people look at me and I don't look like the superior athlete that I get in the ring in front of them. I can't believe how much you can dish out and take and go. Because I've trained since day one. My first match was deleted. Fighting, losing oxygen, losing blood, and to be able to compete still and stand up, you know, on your 2 feet. So, you'll find out real quick.
It's an easy way, I guess, to get really intuitive with your body, and you get to know yourself really quick on what you can endure and how far you can push yourself.
Oh yeah, exactly. Which the more control you have over understanding it, I can dig just a little bit deeper.
So I was going to ask you, was deathmatch wrestling something you always wanted to do, or did that come later? But of course, you said you jumped right into the deep end, right?
Yeah, I knew it from the get go. It's I don't just love deathmatch. Right? Like to be honest, I was gravitated to the raw emotion and violence and all that such. But truth be told, 99% of the time you'll watch me when I'm on the road traveling. Steve and Jerry, we have a traveling little fire stick. You'll catch us in our hotel rooms. A bunch of partiers. We are in the hotel, and usually we hit the hotel gym or the local gym right where we land, and then get to our hotel room and watch old All Japan Joshi wrestling, the women's wrestling. And if it's not that, it's probably Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen, Terry Funk, Dory Funk. Um, that that All Japan, like '90s, early '90s is like my favorite type of wrestling. Um,
Nice.
but let's say it was just because how the real raw, unpolished, if you will, lucha libre. Nothing against it. It is very much like in terms of fighting
Pageantry.
style. It's not even pageantry. Like you watch karate. A lot of guys who do karate are throwing and spinning, or like capoeira. That's a fighting style.
Hmm.
But it's just not my nature to think about when I'm in a fight. I'm gonna spinning back crane kick somebody. This is not happening.
No,
But
you're
then
going
you
for the
watch him.
jugular.
Yeah. But that
Yeah.
you watch a boxer come after someone, he's just throwing wild. It's there's something about that realism. I think that's what was made UFC so popular so quick. Was it wasn't there was no there wasn't rules of, hey, you can't take a guy to the ground, you have to do these spinning dance kicks, or hey, you you can't just throw punches, this guy can kick you in the face,
Yeah.
or in wrestling, like in folk Greco style wrestling, you can't punch. What happens when you try to take the guy to the ground? He punched you in the face, he'd be disqualified. So to me, I was just more drawn towards that old Japan style where it looked like these dudes were just fighting. They were just trying to fight each other. So I love deathmatch wrestling, always was a goal, but that I'm very goal oriented. Like I knew right when I wrestled, like I have it in my phone still from all those years ago, like what my goals are in deathmatch wrestling, what my goals are for my wrestling career, where do I want to be, and that drives me every day. It's what drives me to train, continue to train in the ring, out of the ring, um, drives me to try to get the opponents that I want to get better against, to try to beat. Um, so yeah.
Do you feel like, since you did jump right into the deep end, did you experience any hate from, say, fellow other wrestlers that say like, "Oh, you should have wrestled this long before you came into deathmatch"? Because I feel like that's a common narrative I hear a lot today.
Um, I was kicked out of my first wrestling school because I wanted to be a deathmatch wrestler.
Oh,
So, uh, but I don't hear the narrative so much. People say waited as much as it was like, I think as a whole, there's a notion that you don't need to know how to wrestle. You don't need to know how to um, be able
the
to, like, because I've
fundamentals.
wrestled some, yeah, fun. I've wrestled guys who are deathmatch wrestlers, who are even popular guys that people very much cheer for and follow, and I've wrestled them and they don't know a wrist lock, they don't know how
Hmm.
to put on a hammer lock, how to properly put in a headlock, how to put a chin lock in. The importance of those things are you could win matches with that. If I have wrist control, I could take you where I want you to go. If I have head control, I can take you where I want to go. And uh, to just rely on what's in your environment is just, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I I just think that I've never had that issue because of the fact of I could wrestle and I knew how to wrestle, and I kept training to wrestle with the mindset of it's in my environment. That it's like, if there's something there, if I can't get to a rope, or to utilize wrestling and to further the violent impacts of that thing with my environment and surroundings.
Yeah, having a lot of tools in your repertoire. So, do you? I guess that is something you would have to work differently in a match to someone that doesn't have those fundamentals, and you have to, I guess, talk to them in a different way of like, or lead
No, I just
that
beat 'em
match
up.
in a different way.
I just beat him up.
Yeah.
Listen. I mean, the best thing I've ever heard, best advice I ever heard in my life is, there's some people I really, really deeply and greatly respect in this business, and there's some people that I don't. And what I don't is, there's more people I don't than there is that I do. I should put it that way.
Mhm.
And it's not that I don't like them; it's that they used to earn the respect. I had to earn respect. And one of the best people I've ever um, that I've always respected is the Necro Butcher. That's why I choose to always try to fight him, because he's one of the biggest and baddest, and been the biggest and baddest for so long. And I've always told him, what happens when they get in the ring with somebody and they're just coming out there, throwing whatever at me, and they're not even trying to wrestle and match up. Hey, beat them up, fight
Just
them.
eat them
They
up.
want to fight.
Eat them up.
Yeah, if they fight, fight. And if you just absolutely dog them, then you dog them. You show that there's boys, then there's men, and then there's you. And you show them that. I'm like, you know what? That kind of mindset is what it's always said. I think a lot of the guys who've been doing this for a while, as much as I've had my run-ins with them, the Ricky Shane Pages, the Nick Gages, the Schlacks, Alex Clones, the way those guys have been wrestling this style of wrestling for so long, is the fact that they don't care. They can wrestle. They get better. They constantly trying to get better, and they don't care if it makes them bad look bad.
Yeah, speaking of Necro Butcher, he was, at CZW. He was sitting right behind our row where I was at. Here he is here, basically giving us alternative commentary the entire show, hearing all his thoughts on how things were going. And I know you
The
have a
funniest
match
thing,
against him soon.
yeah, absolutely. The funniest part about that picture, I will give him this. As much as he's been interfering in my business, he knows that it's strictly business. I am not afraid to fight anyone. I've beaten him one time and one time only in a gauntlet match at XPW. The first time I ran into him, I was young. I was, I'd had a few marquee opponents, and he beat me. So this match means a lot to me, because in this last year I've just driven myself to be better, to be tougher. And this last man standing is just he knows it's more for me. It's for me to prove to myself that I can hang with the big boys, and I want to be unquestionable. But in that photo, it is so funny because I did come up to him, I did shake his hand at TOD, and he said, "Hey, it's nice to see you," because at TOD, someone like this, like the Necro Butcher, deserves to be a part of it in some capacity. And I went to shake his hand, and I said, "It's good to see you." And he went, "Shh, I'm in disguise," with that crowd on his head and a goblet. And I went, "You're doing a terrible job." And he goes, "Yeah, because you're blowing my cover."
Yeah, I told him the same thing. I was like, "Hey, man, it's nice to meet you." I said, I told him about the podcast. I said, "I'd love to get you on." He said, "Yeah, let's do it." He said, if you get me a DoorDash case of beer and hit me up on Facebook. It's DK Summers. It's to throw off all the haters." I'm like, "Yeah, I think he's like, but they already know. They already know." I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, everything does is that.
So speaking of CZW, you've been to Tournament of Death finals the past 2 years, right? What does that achievement mean to you? I guess it just means that you're striving for more. It makes you even
Nothing.
hungrier, right?
It means nothing.
Yeah.
It means nothing. It means nothing if I don't win. If I don't win, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, it honestly, some people will come on here and say, "I'm really proud of what I accomplished." I'm not. I didn't win. I lost, and it just means it's another year. I've trained so hard. I fought so hard to be a tournament winner, especially something as illustrious as the Tournament of Death. And I didn't win, which just means I got to train harder and I got to be better. And truthfully, next year, I don't know where to go from here. if I don't win, if I get out of that tournament and don't win, it's something I have to just kind of reconsider um, my goals and things like that, because I gotta win. I can't be some. I'm not gonna be somebody in deathmatch wrestling that's always a bridesmaid. So if I
Gotta
don't
get
win,
that ring.
I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, it means nothing if I don't win.
Yeah. How does each TOD differ in terms of challenges and atmosphere? I'm sure this past 122 was like none other, right?
Yeah, the only thing I think I can hang my hat on is I am thankful for the opportunity to fight in that TOD, because this year's TOD, um, I've always strived fighting the best. I've always strived on getting better. The best way you could do it is to go in the lion's den. If you want to be the apex predator, you need to stand next to the other apex predators and survive, and not only survive but to conquer, and to beat a god of this shit in Nick Gage, to beat Akira, who I see as someone who's had a monstrous year last year with what he's accomplished in Japan, what he's accomplished in deathmatch wrestling, and a legend like Drake Younger. To get to those finals um, was something that when I sit with it, I could say that I'm proud of, and I'm glad that I trained hard enough to be able to overcome those situations. But the other thing I'm grateful for is there's never been a TOD where it's the middle of a storm, and only two people ever in the world can say they were experienced like that, and it's me and my opponent Schlack. That after enduring 2 rounds of deathmatch wrestling, of some of the best deathmatch wrestlers in the world, in the middle of a storm, have faced off in something as high stakes as the tournament of death. And if that ever happens again, it's that just little bit of advantage I'll be able to have over my opponent. That if the scene is set where I am in the rain in the finals again, I've been there before.
I feel
And
like that.
although
I feel
coming
like it's.
short, I know what to do.
I feel like it's kind of like we were saying earlier, like that next level of like pushing your body and that endurance, and like that's something you had never experienced like that before. So that's, like you said, something you'll have an advantage over your opponent if you ever have to encounter that in the future.
Absolutely.
What's the most brutal match that you have had or moment that you've had at GOD? Would it be that match?
Say that again.
What's the most brutal match or moment
Can you
you've
say that
had
again?
at a tournament of death? Would it be that match with Slack?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I think some people saw that I had this. It was the first match I ever had to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And as much as I walked out on my own 2 feet, even the hospital was like, "I can't believe you were going to walk here or walk in here." I had internal bleeding in my
Jeez.
abdomen. If you watch it back, there was a time where a huge, because of the rain and the cold, the glass breaks differently. It changes everything, and so glass doesn't break in small pieces. It was breaking in long, thin shards, and one had pierced my abdomen and caused some internal bleeding. It went in about, they said, about 3 inches into
Oh
my
man.
abdomen. I have an 18-inch gash in my back.
All right, we're back.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely the most brutal match I've ever been in. It was the first time I've been in the hospital. It's the first time I experienced, like, I felt it, the adrenaline dropped,
Mm-hmm.
but even when I got into the ambulance, they had told me, I can't believe you were going to just drive here. Just falling off the scaffolding, uh, going through all the testing, internal bleeding that pierced my abdomen because the cold and the rain causes the glass to shatter differently.
Yeah.
So it caused me to have an 18-inch gash in my back that required dozens of sutures, glue and tape, um, They told me over 30 pieces of metal and shrapnel and glass removed from my back and neck that were large, that had to be taken out from cutting me with scalpels. It was the most pain, and then as the adrenaline starts to drop, even with whatever pain medication and numbing they have, just the excruciating pain of people prying and putting tweezers and fingers into your body, having to be in a neck brace just because you've fallen off a scaffold into um, an exploding glass table in the rain with more broken glass.
Deathmatch Chum is what I was calling that canvas afterwards,
Yeah,
because it
yeah,
just the blood and water and everything that was left in there, carnage.
yeah. And then just the thought of like, I look back on that, and it just does to show all the training and all the mindset that has to be taken into it, because it was pure instinct and pure adrenaline that when I hit the ground, I was just on Dream Street. And it was almost like the elbow drop woke me back up. And I was just like, boom, back up and swinging for the fences. Uh, but yeah, it definitely the most brutal match I've been in. And I don't think it's the last time I'll ever have a match that brutal, especially with Black.
So how do you prepare yourself mentally and physically for such violent environments?
Um, it, it it really just becomes a mindset of I just think of there's a I was one time watching I want to say it was National Geographic, or it was probably like some show about Shark Week on TLC, and it was there was a predator shark, and it leaves so deep into the ocean, that deep in these trenches where its physical body composition can withstand that pressure. And although it does not have the sharpest teeth, although it does not have the fastest swimming ability, and although it is not the most keen hunting sense in terms of planning and plotting, what it does is when it grabs its prey, it immediately begins to swim down to the deepest depths of the ocean,
Mm,
therefore crushing its prey under the pressure of its environment.
yeah,
And
that's
it can
gnarly.
withstand that because of what it's put itself and where it chooses to live and dwell. So I taken that's the mindset I have to prepare for this, is when I train, when I fight, when I prepare, I make my environment as uncomfortable as possible. I
Yeah.
make it as hostile as possible. I train in harsh conditions when I'm sick, when I'm dehydrated. Um, I train on empty stomach. I was in the gym. I kid you not, and I think I have photos somewhere. I was in the gym training beginner students at a local wrestling facility doing a seminar 2 days after TOD.
Mm,
Uh, Sutures in my back, a pool of blood coming from my elbow, which was also sliced open, uh, pretty thick. Um, just nonstop. You can't stop, because that's what's gonna hopefully sets me apart eventually. It's this as someone from the West Coast, a big Kobe Bryant person, that Mamba mentality. If I get to the gym at 5 a.m. and everyone else doesn't come to shoot until 7 a.m., I'm gonna have that many more shots over my opponent,
yeah.
and they'll never be able to catch up to me eventually. I just gotta put the time. So um, that's how I kind of prepare for it. It's in the immediate seeing the effects, but also hopefully in the long. Nobody in my class, nobody in the class before me, nobody in the classes after me will be able to catch me once the training and that pressure build comes there. I just drag them to the same environment that I've been living, and they'll just crack under the pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. See if you can hang. If not, then like you said, you're gonna crack. I like that mentality because I always kind of use it. I always say eat their lunch. Like, if they're not in the gym or they're not doing this or whatever it is that you're going to have a leg up on them, I'm going to eat your lunch every time because yeah. Is it true that you did the graphics for TOD for this year?
It is true that I did the graphics for TOD this year and the year before that,
Okay,
and the year before that.
nice. I did not. I stumbled across that. It was an interesting fact for me. But so is that something you've always done, like graphic design?
Yeah, before I was a professional wrestler, I toured in a band for a living. So that was like the DIY mentality has always been there for me. I've been playing in all styles of bands, mostly hardcore punk bands since I was 14 years old. Um, and so when I was doing it for a living, and you're signed to a label and you're doing the Billboard chart gimmick and you're trying to hustle and market yourself, it costs money. So rather than paying these people money, I was just learning how to do it on my own, just the YouTube University. Um, because then also there was just they didn't get the visions that I was trying to get. So I mean, other than my Ozawa designs, all of my Dread merchandise is made by me. Um, in fact, even like my new line of merch that's been coming out since I've done the the moniker dropping of Judge. Yeah, that's all handmade by me. I print those, I design them, I hand package them.
No shit.
Yeah, so every time you get a Dread drop, it is literally me coming across a piece um, of garment, if you will. Of I see these jerseys that I like and these hats that I like. It's things that I would wear that I like. Um, and if you fuck with it, awesome. If you don't, I don't care. Like I would wear it. And so uh, yeah, I make it now. It's kind of been the goal with myself and Steven Jury is to make things that not necessarily are for wrestling fans, but more for what we think is cool and what we would want to see. And so yeah, I do all that stuff. Always been a passion. All forms of art have been some way to kind of keep me sane. Um, Artistic expression, uh, cinematography, photography. I really love cinematography as well, but graphic design is something that I do for fun. You'll catch me mocking up designs, and then if I really like something, um, I'll try to find a piece that I can make it become a reality.
Yeah, that's dope. And it's also seems like it's more of a connection for you to the fans and for the fans to you, it seems like, because it is coming from you and you are sourcing these items. And I think it means a lot more, especially to the fan base. Not a lot of people put that much thought into those types of things, and having that artistic flow and mindset, it's a good release for you. And hey, like I said, it's great for the fans too, because it's a cool connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that uh like I said, I've been asked sometimes to do graphics for some people. But I really only do it for people that I believe in and I feel like I have could have some connection. I do also all our Bloodfighter merchandise for
Hmm.
myself, Alex and Joel and Charlie, Clint and Jordan. Um, so those shirts that we put out or need like patches or things like that. Like I said, other than the Ozawas, which I really love his style too, just the legacy behind it. But um, yeah, and TOD. I think TOD's. I don't do all the graphics for CZW, but just like the ones that the Cage of Death.
Hmm.
There's a graphic that'll will be out for that I also did. Um, the events that I think I have some kind of special connection to. Um, and if they want it, they can have it. If they don't, they don't. That's totally cool with me. Um,
Yeah.
and there's some people, if they ask me, that I would definitely do some kind of piece for them. But for now, it's just I like the idea of, you know, I made something that I think is cool and that I feel like I relate to. Uh, and then I put it out, and then people like it. It means a little bit more. It's a little more satisfying to me than just kind of a selling merch because I think it'll sell.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I believe I'm right there with you. It's definitely a good thing you're doing there. I want to ask, where did the judge gimmick originate from?
It originated because of, uh, well, ironically, when I first started training, it was my trainer at the time, and him and Sabu were doing a podcast together, and they had come up with it. Uh, Originally, they pitched the idea of me being like a cop,
Mm-hmm.
of some sort, and I had played with that already. I thought of the name of you know my name being Joe and the dread part, and just adding the judge before it. But then just how would I make it work? And why would I? I'd have to have, again, some connection to it. Um, and then uh, where it really connected for me was growing up in my personal life. I always really felt like I didn't fit in. Uh, I was 14 years old and I was playing in bands with 19, 20, and I was too young to be hanging with them. I was doing things that other 14-year-olds weren't doing. Um, and I just felt like everyone kind of judged me. And I had tattoos at 15 years old, but
Mm-hmm.
I was too young still to hang out with the other people. And also in my family, I was straight edge and like really hanging out with not a bad crowd of people necessarily, but just uh, not like I was going out partying at a young age and doing drugs. My family has a lot of history of gang violence, alcoholism, um, and such like that. So I didn't even fit in with them. Uh, and something that was brought to my attention was that, what would a what would a person who lived in Gotham in the Batman universe, who spent his whole life being laughed at, felt like he was the butt of a joke, what would happen to him if he snapped? He'd probably become the Joker. So in the same sense, what would happen to a guy in Gotham who felt like no matter where he went, to his place of work, family, his wife, kids, friends, he felt like everybody just judged him, and he just snapped one day. What would happen? So he'd probably become the judge. And so that's kind of where I was at. Kind of frustrated where I was in wrestling, and I was tired of people saying that I had to act a certain way. I was really offended. I remember when I told you my first school I was in, I got kicked out of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember my first week because I used to be a lot heavier. Um, I was told that I shouldn't cut promos, I shouldn't talk, and I should just wrestle like Earthquake from the natural disaster.
Mm.
And I was just like, I feel like I could talk pretty well. I feel like I could sell a fight. Um, and they were like, yeah, I don't care.
Mm.
Just like, and so I was just frustrated. And then that's where I kind of ran with the judge thing. It was this mindset of the simple mindset of, if you think you're tough, I'll be the judge. Like if
Yeah.
you think you could dish out any kind of damage, let's see how much you could dish out. Like I want to see it. I'm sick enough that I've been hit. I've been hit enough too many times in the head from playing in hardcore bands and stuff that you got to be pretty tough to knock me out. So let's see if you can do it. And
I
if you
love that
can,
I love
cool.
that origin story, and I feel like if the judge was ever released in Gotham City, Batman would not know how to handle that. But
Yeah,
hey, we had him in the deathmatch community, so he was tearing it up. Yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty dope. It's deep, but I like it.
Yeah.
So what did you enjoy most about performing as the judge?
Um, what I loved about it was the power of controlling a narrative. Uh, I wasn't everybody's cup of tea coming
Mm-hmm.
in to deathmatch wrestling. They had their favorites, and uh, a lot of their favorites either were old guard that were slowly coming towards the end. They were closer to the end of their careers than they were the beginnings of the peaks of their careers, or these new people that were just I felt really reckless, methodical. They weren't methodical at all. They were just recklessly throwing. It was just demolition derby, and
Yeah.
there's a difference between demolition derby and NASCAR. There's a difference between somebody who is a calculated fighter and a guy who just goes out there swinging, you know. I'm sure people love and are entertained by watching a UFC fight and two guys just throw all technique out the window and they just start throwing.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't make them great fighters. That just makes them brave. And I always like to say, dead men don't feel bravery. They're dead. So keep going out there and playing brave. They don't put that on your grave. I want to be the best. And so I would go out there and wrestle matches. And truly knowing that it would garner me a lot of hate for trying to push the envelope and to do things a certain way. So the best part of the judge was embracing the fact that I knew how these people were going to react, because that's how people reacted my whole life, and be able to change the narrative and say, I embrace being this hated judge. One day you'll see that I'm right and they're wrong.
Do you feel like naturally you've always had that sort of feeling amongst people? Like you said, you didn't really fit in. So like, do you feel like, I don't want to say hate it, but like, you know, it's kind of like you said, you came in and sort of disrupted the old guards and the people that are kind of gatekeeping, so to say, maybe, and you kind of went and blazed it your own way. So like, I guess you feel like naturally you kind of were able to lean into that, sort of what you were able to experience.
Yeah, for sure. That was the best part. It was to be able to to shift the narrative and to be able to say, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to be, and I don't really care what anyone else has to say about it. And then to not be afraid to stand to the old guard and say, I'll go toe to toe with you. I don't care. And I'm not going to, again, I always refer to one of the men I respect the most, the Necro Butcher. He always says, I'll never bend a knee for $1 or 1,000. And in the same mindset, it was, if I was willing to bend the knee so much to what the audience wanted to, I think that the guys that I grew up looking up to wouldn't have respected me. If I would have shied away from certain matches because I thought it wouldn't make me look good, or because it wasn't a fight that I thought I could win, they wouldn't have respected me as much. So I always prided myself on living the moniker of, if you think you're tough, I'll be the judge of that. Yeah. So win or lose, I'm going to find out. And just know the only way you're going to stop me is if you kill me. Because if you let me walk out on my own 2 feet, I'm just going to go and try to get better. And then next time you see me, it's going to be a different beast. You're not wrestling the same guy twice. And I think you can ask people who I've wrestled multiple times that they've never wrestled the same Dred twice.
And I think that probably contributes to, like we were talking earlier, the amount of work that you're putting in. Like you said, 2 days after TOD, you're right back in there, you know, doing a seminar for guys, and you know that only sharpens your tools at the end of the day. So constantly getting better.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that really shifted in my mind was I think there was a clip that went around. It wasn't super viral, but the day after I wrestled Masada at XPW, he skewered me to high hell. The next day, I wrestled not one, but 2 of the first class graduates of the New Japan Academy here in Los Angeles. For the day out, less than 12 hours after I just wrestled Masada, and beat the fucking brakes off both. Just dip on my shoulder. I went out there. The first guy just could not hang, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I remember and I lariated the shit out of him, and he was done. And it was like, I went to cover him and it was over. It was like 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Jeez.
And then the next guy was like, almost, it was like a 6'6" dude. And I immediately threw him outside. I remember him even telling the referee, he's like, I've never wrestled outside of him. And I'm like, welcome to the fucking deep end. And
yeah.
proceeded to beat the dog shit out of him. And yeah, bleeding out of my head, like head-butted him, which reopened my forehead. And this was like at a family show. I just didn't care. I was like,
Just going in.
my adrenaline was still up. I was riding the high of being able to survive and hang with one of the greatest, wrestlers in independent wrestling, the toughest today. And so I felt like I got better. I was eager to show it. And so, yeah.
Why did you decide to step away from the Judge character?
Because I felt that people started to get it. I felt that people started to get that I wasn't their enemy. And they were starting to get what I was doing.
Mhm.
I didn't need a moniker. I always wanted to be, for lack of a better, I want to be the man. I wanted to be the man. Um, like I said, there's always going to be a chip on my shoulder, and the chip and the focus changed. It was I want to be the best, and I could see it right there. Um, I can almost get there. There's work to be done. There's always work to be done. But then I look at the big picture of deathmatch wrestling, and there's just so much. There's so much disrespect for the sport from people. What I like to say are play fighters, they're cosplayers, they're fake tough guys. And that's not my wrestling. That's not my death match. That's not my genre. And there's guys like I always go back to the Knuckle Butcher. He didn't look like every other wrestler, but you were captivated to watch him, and he represented this genre so well because it didn't matter that he didn't look like them. He was going to prove that being a deathmatch wrestler meant that you were just that much tougher. The Ricky Shane Pages, the Nick Gages, the Sick Nick Mondos, Zandig, Wife Beater, Brain Damage, JC Bailey, those guys all, Masada, all of them. When you step in the ring with them, it is just that level is different. And I've wrestled guys who've been in WWE. I've wrestled guys who've been in AEW, and it's different. It's different. And I think people started to understand that I wasn't trying to just be their enemy. I was trying to condition them to remember that we deserve a higher quality in this sport. That there is a line, and it's a hard conversation to have. There's a line between me on this side of the barricade and them, and it wasn't to be disrespectful, but you can't do what I do, and I'm not trying to go over there and say that I could be a wrestling journalist. I'm not claiming to be the best interviewer. I'm not claiming to be the best at podcasting for wrestling. That's your side of the fence, and this is my side of the fence. And it's that distinction that makes wrestling great. That no one sits there and goes, I think I can hang, with the UFC heavyweight champion. And I wanted to bring that back. And I think that people started to realize I wasn't just here to play around. That I want to make this great. I want to make this better than I found it, just like the people before me did, and to do it the right way. And so I felt it was time to just drop it. And instead of just going by Joe Dred, it was the fact that I was naturally having people starting to recognize what I was doing, and people would chant my name at shows, and they would just say Dred. So why not make it easier? Just say, that's who I am. I dropped the gimmick and exposed the man.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of almost like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you're almost not final form, but almost like, like a phoenix has to rise from the ashes, almost like you're shedding a skin and you're now coming into Dread. And like you said, sort of setting those standards of like, hey, like, you believe that you can beat the heavyweight champion of the world or what have you, instead of, people, like you said, just going out there just to do things, just to do it. Like, make it mean something, I feel like, is what you're trying to bring back to the scene.
100%. I mean, there's only I tell my students when I train, I do beginners classes or I do any seminar, there's only 3 reasons you should be a professional wrestler. at all. It should be money. You want to make money. You want to prove that you're the best at what you do, or you want to be the champion. You want power. You want some influence. If I win a belt, I have a platform to then push some kind of agenda. If I have more money, that money can fund me to push that. Having one of those three things is the reason why you should be a professional. And this is my job. So I wrestle for money. Even when it's a match that has no, you know, there's no bad blood, there's no real reason in which I'm taking the fight. There is. I'm a professional and I want money. And I think that I could beat this person and the winner gets more money. When I go to collect my paycheck, I'm going to the pay window of the winner's circle, not the loser.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. Or I want to prove that I'm the best. I'll take a fight because I want to prove that I'm the best.
Yeah.
And that's it. Or I want the accolade, the title, to win a TOD, to have my name cemented in legacy, because it just then furthermore helps with that stature of what I wish to accomplish in wrestling. And so, yeah, that's why I felt that I was accomplishing that, and people were starting to rock with it. So I kept it.
Do you feel like fans still associate you with the judge persona? And if they do you feel like that kind of fuels you to go even harder now because you're going to let them know that you're now Dred?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's the motivation in my mind too. Before it was I wanted to see who was the toughest in that ring, and then it's become more that I felt that I was proving it, and I was beating some of the best, and I was still not being looked over.
Mhm.
And now I want them to have to say my goddamn. When you talk about the TOD in the ring, as disappointing as it was for me to lose, you're gonna have to say my name when it comes up to some of the most violent, TODs of all time, and the wildest. When it comes to, you know, deathmatch wrestling today, you're gonna have to say my name. So a lot of times you'll see me now when I wrestle, whether they call me the judge or not. I'll tell these people and remind them, what's my name? What's my name? Because they ain't gonna overlook me anymore.
Where do you pull inspiration from when you're honing your promo skills? Because I feel like you're almost light years aside from, say, some other people that might be in the same realm that cut promos. I feel like you really think about it. You really, I don't know. I don't know what the word to describe it is, but I think you know what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Boxers,
Okay.
fighters. I just watch fighters. I mean, they're selling fight. That's what a promo is. If I'm asked by a promoter to do a promo, it's a video or an interview of some sort where I need to sell a fight. I need to promote this fight that is going to happen at their event. So who better than boxing promoters and boxing promos? And on the artistic side of it, to try to captivate people, to captivate masses. Well, professional wrestling, especially independent wrestling, may not be as wide a reach or audience than, say, the UFC or mixed martial arts um, or boxing. So I had the thought in my mind of like, well, who can reach masses of people from all different walks of life, and really get them invested to buy in on something, even if they don't necessarily understand. And cult leaders, people that could sell this idea or dream or something to make people, whether it's through fear mongering or through false hope, to be invested in something. So I started watching a lot of cult leaders and how they spoke and how they talked and how they influenced people.
I can definitely see that. That's what I was gonna say. It was something to do with religion based because I can hear it when you do your promos. It's like it's so like I guess captivating. I don't know if you use that word, but I feel like it's very captivating sometimes and mesmerizing. Like you said, like an occult leader, So it reels people in and hooks them in. So I think that's why some of that, like I said, that you're pulling from, it sets you aside from so many others because it just hits a lot differently.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's those guys were able to get people to give their life for
Yeah.
their word, So why not try to promote fights and try to get following my own and get devoted followers that believe in me that way? Because that also, in turn, can help me uh, to dig a little bit deeper. I mind you, it was intentional. I spent the beginnings of my career up until this year doing nothing but garnering hate from the wrestling community, wrestling fans, and never been able to tap into them when I
Hmm.
need to dig deeper. Now that I've spent my entire career that way, I can only imagine what would happen when I reached a point where I feel like I can't dig any to be able to tap into them and that kind of fuel that's worked for guys like Nick Gage and it's worked for guys like Black and Alex as well. Like it's just another thing to add.
I think it's one of those things where I don't want to say in due time, but it's one of those things that I think that the real recognize what you're doing, and eventually you'll be right there feeding off that fuel will be fueling your fire, so to say, I guess. Tell us about your connection with Stephen Jury. How did that friendship get formed? And I assume you guys, like you're saying earlier, you guys spend time together when you're on the road, so you guys have a real connection besides just working together in the wrestling field.
Yeah, I met him through professional wrestling. I heard him
Mhm.
speak. I thought that he was so good with his words, and he was arguing with somebody about an opinion they had that had to do with wrestling, and he was very much exuberating that lawyer background and proving a point. And I had this epiphany. I was like, listen, I've been a fan of, like I said, old school territory wrestling, and um, another thing I was missing was that if I had just that little bit of edge, yeah, you sacrifice your uh, maybe your merch sales because fans don't like you so much because you have to have a manager. But I don't care. I, I want money. I
Yeah.
want a title. I want power, and that's the quickest way to get there. How do I get there? Um, and have another tool in my belt. Having a manager that's willing to represent, go to bat for me, look over offers for matches for me. Um, Sounded like a no-brainer, and so I presented it to him, and he thought it was a great deal. We worked out a great deal, and I think it also helped Chumps just like start me pretty quickly. Um, from the time I mean, Stephen Jury's debut with me. I think when he debuted with me at XPW, we had just met 3-4 months prior.
Mhm.
So kind of off the rip there, he kind of showed what he kind of contributed to my career. And
There was a natural chemistry between you two?
yeah, natural chemistry, but also just like his influence, his idea. He also is a fan of wrestling, so he had a mind for it too. And I value his opinion and his mind for it, in terms of just how we should present ourselves. And uh, yeah, and again, we continue to get better together. I mean, he's taken a lot of a lot from me, um, off. I mean, taking a lot of stress off me, not thinking about things, and also to be a great backup plan out there. So he's watched my back, and it's nice to have somebody in the business. Granted, I pay him, so I mean, like he's a lawyer. He has, uh,
It's still good to
but
have somebody like that you can, I guess, spitball things off of, and you feel like they have your best
yeah,
interest versus, especially in
exactly.
wrestling, it can be a very dog eat dog and, maniacal,
Yeah,
shitty business. So to have someone that you can trust and rely on, that's always a good thing to have, especially, like I said, in wrestling.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's kind of like the best part about having is that peace of mind back in my head. That at the end of the day, this business owes nothing, but we have each other, and a mutual respect for that business, and understand we got to do what's best for business, and we still see the future. That's together.
What's your current relationship with Circle Six, and how did that connection start?
Currently, I am the Circle Six world champion. And how that started was I was really a big fan of what they were doing. Like I said, I like being against the grain and being different. Circle Six is they have one of the coolest ways to kind of say it. It's not wrestling, it's rock and roll. And they were doing things different with their ballroom blitzes and just the kind of craziest, wildest show on earth. So I I was always interested in doing it. I was so focused on the deathmatch aspect of things, and they were doing stuff right in my own backyard that I had sat down with um, their CEO, JB, and we got to talking and got to talking about ideas and me coming on. And yeah, ever since April, when I won the belt, I've been there now and in the office and helping also kind of contribute ideas and to really help kind of grow this different thing. You know, something that's another artistic expression and passion of mine. This is insanity. It's pushing the boundaries of what professional wrestling. I mean, we just had a riot in Vancouver that was all over the news. Yahoo Sports, ringside, everyone, me, Alex Cologne, Dave Reckoning against Justice, Rob Shit, and Shotzi Blackheart. They jumped off a hot dog cart.
Oh, I've seen that.
But yeah, it's like it just that's not going to happen anymore. Circle Six kind of comes in with the mindset of how do we, you know, push the envelope beyond the scope and the universe of wrestling, but also just entertainment with the the rock and roll energy. It reminds me more of when I used to play in a band. You know, you'd go and just see a band and just fucking rip, and it didn't matter that they weren't the same genre. Like I remember my fondest memories. I used to play in this kind of like indie rock post-hardcore band, but I would always tour with these super sick crossover thrash hardcore bands that I loved because it was just like it was gnarly. It was just gnarly
Yeah.
to watch. It was like, how can we go just as hard as they do to a different genre? And so that's kind of where it's at. I always like to tell people like Circle Six is the Savannah Bananas of wrestling. Like,
Okay.
like wrestling is Major League Baseball, this, but the Savannah Bananas are selling out stadiums, MLB stadiums, multiple nights. I think what's insane to me is I think there was something that the Savannah Bananas sold more, had more fans attend their games than the Florida.
I believe it.
And that's insane. And they're just like, they have crazy rules. And what I like about them as well is they're wrestling in its purest form respects wrestling. And we're all spectators of the sport of wrestling. And we love we come as fans, we come as competitors, respecting the ring, respecting the match, and understanding this is what it is. They come in with the mindset of the spectator, the fan, the consumer is number one, and you can see that shift. And so I've been able to flex more, create. I need to be kind of stimulated that way sometimes, or else I get too cynical and too grumpy. Like recently, we debuted a match that I invented called the fans count anywhere.
That's awesome.
It's as chaotic and as a shit show as you think it is, but it's also very, very fun. It's very fun. It's very few times where you have fun. The best way I can describe it is like you're fighting and you're like in middle school and you and your friends are just playing body shots in the locker room because you're kind of laughing about it, but you also get this sense of pride of like, I'm hanging with the boys, So like if fans count anywhere, it's just this insanity of like throwing a ref shirt on a fan and telling
because they're all probably anticipating too, like, oh, am I gonna get the shirt? Or are you gonna get the shirt? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna do it? Like
it's insane, dude. And just like some people just like it's funny because you see some fans that are like, that they've been dying for this moment.
Yeah.
because they're like getting the full Charles
Get me.
Robinson.
I wouldn't.
Yeah. And then there's some people who just don't understand that they're just like they're just
Don't.
drunk in
I
a
don't know
bar,
what's
and they just put on the like count to three, and they're like not even on the ground. They're just like one. They're like, no, hit the fucking ground, bro. And it's
You've never seen wrestling. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's insane. It's so, but it adds to the appeal of it because you just kind of like
you don't know what's gonna happen.
Fighting, as you're fighting, you just kind of have to laugh it off. It's like the best. Like I said, I try to always kill for analogies to explain it. It's like if you're playing body shots with your friend in middle school and you hit him in the gut and he farted. You'd be like, as mad as I am,
starts laughing.
Everyone just starts laughing. Or if like someone got hit and they made like a girly sound, and you'd be like, that was so funny. In the same sense, like, I'm trying to beat this guy, but also, how funny was that guy being so dog shit at counting to three? It's hilarious. Like, you could usually laugh. And I had a great opponent, me and Rob Shit. We fought in that riot in Vancouver and, got almost arrested in Canada together. And I was like, no one would understand this more and just like to fight than Rob Shit.
Yeah, that's so that was your idea, that stipulation.
Fans count anywhere. As a former judge, I'm a man of the people. So I thought, what better way than to kick off this match stipulation that I hope that they can bring to all barroom blitzes,
Yeah, I love that. Do you feel like the Circle Six, you fit right in, like you're saying, with your music background? Obviously, you're wrestling. Like it's like you're combining best of both worlds in some sense. And you said it's like right in your backyard, right?
Yeah. Here's the thing: I don't feel like I do fit in right in. And that's what I like about it. Is it forces me to get out of my mindset as I'm a wrestler, I'm a fighter. And I know that element of it, but again, like they say, it's not wrestling, it's rock and roll. And what is rock and roll? I mean, you ask someone in their 70s or 80s, they'll say Elvis is rock and roll. You ask someone in their 40s and 50s, they'll say, Van Halen or Motley Crue is rock and roll. You ask someone, that's in our, a millennial, what's rock and roll? They would, probably say Nirvana. Grunge is rock and roll. It's none of those genres sound the same. It's the attitude. It's the focusing more on the presentation rather than the genre. And I've always felt that deathmatch wrestling was rock and roll in wrestling. They've gone so far as to say, what's the rock and roll of just all wrestling? And let's be that. And let's push the envelope of that. And let's just make our own thing. Because then, there used to be a funny band that I used to watch. And I forget what their name to, but I remember when I toured in a band, they used to make up this genre that they were. And they would say, we're the best ones. We're the greatest band in the genre because we're the only ones in the genre. and that was funny to me, but it's like, I think that's like Circle Six is like, they're like rock and roll wrestling, and they're the greatest rock and roll wrestling promotion because they're the only rock and roll wrestling promotion.
Yeah, nobody does what they do.
No one does what they do. So then when they fail, necessarily, like, is it a failure? No one's ever done it.
We're still the best.
We're the best. Like that show I did, the Fans Bring the Weapons. Like we did an arm wrestling. Like it's wrestling, but we did arm wrestling, but no holds barred arm wrestling, so you could spit drinks and thumbs in the eye, and you're just like, this is absolutely ludicrous, But like, it's funny. I mean, and maybe we'll do thumb wrestling. Maybe we'll, and once in a while too, we'll just throw it back and just throw you a curveball. We have a huge show that I'm really excited to be a part of on October 31st, November 1st, doubleheader. It's going to be Tales from the Sticks at Knucklehead in Hollywood, which has kind of like been our home base, if you will. And then November 1st at Super Chief Gallery.
Is that this one?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
That is going to be an insane one. Necro Butcher, Matthew Justice, myself, Alex Colon, Dave Reckoning, Cruel. In fact, I that one interests me the most because it's a night like that where there will be a ring in such a cool venue that I've spent most of my time in Circle Six trying to challenge myself by not preparing for my opponents and having open challenges for the world title. And I think that's something that I've kicked around is rather than doing an open challenge at this event, maybe pushing for somebody bigger. And that's a name that's been knocking around my mind for a while is Cruel.
Mm.
So who knows? Who knows? Because there's boys, there's men, and there's monsters. I've never stepped in the ring with Cruel. I've never stepped in the ring with a literal self-proclaimed monster. Um,
He
but
definitely is that, and he's been
yeah,
all over the place. So yeah, who knows where he could show up.
absolutely. So yeah, it's gonna be an awesome time. Um, and I know right now they're again it's for the fans, so they're doing like tiered tickets too, where it's like if you buy tickets before October 1st, it's like you can get both shows for like $40. So
Oh,
Halloween
nice.
and the first, and they go up from there. But it's gonna be cool. Oh, they have I know that they've by the time this probably comes out, Techno Destructo from Gore is going to be present
Nice.
in his wrench arm, which is just pure insanity. Um, but yeah, it just all that to say, like, it really helps expand my thought and minds on the business of wrestling and being a fighter. There's the fun element.
Yeah, it
This is also
helps
just
you stay out of that complacent zone and get you in an uncomfortable situation. Help you
for sure.
I guess strive to see what comes out of that.
Absolutely.
So you've lived on the West Coast. What's the scene like? Compared to the East Coast. When either death match, non-death match,
Nothing.
fight to fight.
Nothing. Nothing. Nothing there. Um, I came in at a weird time because XPW was such a big deal out here in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And then XPW folded. And then for a while there was UEW and Crimson Crown, and that was really popping too. And then by the time I started coming into the scene, those places weren't running as frequently. So there wasn't really deathmatch wrestling. So when XPW had their rebirth out here, um, that was huge for me because I'd been just taking anything I could get. It was just randomly on lucha shows, they would want a lucha extrema match, and that would be the guy they'd call. Um, and that was like a lot of grinding. Um, and then even PWG like slowed down a lot. Um, and the only thing that was kind of running for a while was Lucha Underground, and then that stopped. And then bar wrestling as well. So the scene really took a huge hit. But I think with that's been a huge part is me trying to help um, kind of advertise and wave the banner of the West Coast out here.
Mm-hmm.
And you see companies now like Seven, um, you see companies like RPW, and you see, hopefully you'll see more wrestling companies, especially deathmatch companies coming out here. I mean, King of the Deathmatch has been out here the last 2 years. This year it's an indie, but I think you'll start to hopefully see more of it. Um, there's tons of talented wrestlers. That's the other hard part. But a lot of people, I think, rather than try to build the scene up here, was just going east
Yeah.
to try to. It was just easier than trying to build something. I always like to say it's easier to give birth than to raise the dead. So,
Yes. I love that
and
saying. It's easier to give birth to a baby than it is to raise a dead body. Yeah,
exactly. So,
I love that.
but I like the challenge. So I've been trying to bring the scene back as much as I can. Because, like I said, there's really talented wrestlers that are out here.
And I
I
think
think
you're
that
doing a great job of that because even when you are like, you're booked all over the place, but when you are booked, you are someone I feel like embodies the West Coast and represents the West Coast. So, which kind of threw me off initially because I feel like I don't know if it's like maybe the act like I feel like you have like a Boston accent. Maybe this is the first time you heard this like a Boston New Yorkist
no, yeah,
accent. Like
everyone,
everyone says that, I bet, right?
everybody, and it's the only reason. Like the way I could say it is I think it comes from my biological father.
Hmm.
Um, when I try to be serious, I have a lot of inflections of his, mannerisms of his. and he would say stuff like that to me all the time. And he had that kind of accent.
Mm-hmm.
And so that comes out sometimes when I'm just being really serious. Um, but yeah, no, not from never lived on the East Coast in my
That's
life.
so it blows my mind because it's like I'm from the East Coast, I'm from Baltimore, so it's like I hear these accents all the time, and just
Yeah,
when I first got introduced to you, I'm like, oh yeah, he's definitely New York, Boston, something like that. And then when I did my research, I'm
yeah.
like, this is fucking me up. Like maybe he was born there and then he moved to the
Nah,
West Coast, but no, West Coast all the way through and through.
born and raised here. Yeah, my family's,
Yeah.
and a lot of people also think I'm Italian. I'm Italian, and I'm
You
not.
said Hispanic earlier, right?
Yes, my family's third generation Mexican.
Yeah.
Yes, my grandma was born in Mexico.
You're fucking all of our heads up, Joe.
I know.
uh, do you feel like the fans change from coast to coast?
100%.
Okay.
I feel like the West Coast fans are so the West Coast fans I feel like are a lot more observant, if you will. They they haven't had wrestling for so long and so frequently that they digest it. They digest everything so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, the locks, the garnering for position. I think the East Coast fans are really desensitized.
Mm-hmm.
They've seen it all, they think. So then they just kind of just wait for the next big thing. But then because they're looking for something bigger or the next viral clip, if you will, they're missing out on the struggle, the journey, the psychological thought process behind why we're doing what we're doing, and that in itself is to be appreciated. So I think that's why in the beginning a lot of people didn't really fuck with me because I wasn't going to change that for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll maintain that, So I always try to stay with the mindset of I'm here trying to fight, and I have a plan in my head, a plan of attack, and a fixing plan. I don't care if I get
It's kind of like try to throw me off that plan if you can,
Yeah, I mean, no one. I remember how many people. Huh?
Go ahead.
I was saying, I remember so many people used to boo the shit on Floyd Mayweather because his defense was so good, but he won fights, so he didn't change for nobody.
Has traveling shaped your style in the ring?
Yeah, 100%. Because every time I go somewhere, I try to train what else to do. Try to get better, try to learn something new. And then you go over to these places, see things that people arguing, and yeah, that's been super influential in my mind, even just in training, like how I train. So,
how do you balance the physical toll of deathmatch wrestling with your personal life? Because, like you said earlier, you're going to the hospital, you're putting your body through hell. How do you deal with that, and then having to come back to reality, so to say?
I mean, it's easier now. This is my reality. I wrestle
Okay.
full time as my 9 to 5, if you will. So this is what I do. It's a lot easier now, but I remember when I was first breaking in and I had a 9 to 5 office job and having to put a hat on over a bunch of scars on my head and just
Explain that to your boss, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was just so much. It was, and then just like having to get up and just like I don't know, this emptiness of just like, oh my God, I gotta get up and go work for another person to put money in their pocket to give my time when I could be getting better at this. And when I decided to take a gamble on myself and just become full time in wrestling, it's definitely shifted my mood too. I'm a little bit more. I think I'm a little more patient, and I'm not as angry as I used to be. I still get pretty pissed off sometimes, but yeah.
Do you feel like like you said, like I guess it instills a little bit more hunger inside of you too, because like you said, you're all in now. You're betting on yourself. Do you feel like that was like scary for you at first, or it was just like, hey, we're in this now and there's no turning back?
No, I think it was like it. There was a moment of like, all right, I gotta stop walking the line.
Mm,
Either I'm all in on this, and I can get to that next level, or I'm not. And then some stuff happened where I was like, you know what? I either have no choice. I either just stop this now, or I go all in. And I was like, you know what? This is what I want to do, and I think I could do it. And I went all in, and I haven't looked back since. My mood has just been so much better. Um, my mindset, my mentality is so much better. So yeah, I it's definitely made me hungrier because then also because I have to bet on myself, like there's no excuses anymore.
yeah,
So
it's
that
all
helps
on
out a
you.
lot. That's on me.
Yeah. What's next for Dred? Any goals in the near future? What do you have? Like we talked about some of the events you have coming up. If there's anything you want to plug, what do you have coming up?
Yeah, you come see me defend the Circle Six World Championship at Thriller, and come check out Tales from the Six, October 31st at Knucklehead, and November 1st over at Super Chief Gallery in Los Angeles.
I don't know
Um,
if this is past or not. No, this is October 18th.
October 18th at CZW. Uh, Continuing to try to push that legacy and what we built at CZW, um, is it's definitely given me a new perspective. Um, I have a lot to prove there because I spent the last 3 years uh, at Combat Zone because it was such a pivotal part of my life and journey, and as someone that was a wrestling fan turned wrestler, and I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in there, and a lot of eyes started to come into CZW again, and now all of the so-called legends are starting to all flood back. And as great as that is it makes the competition better. There's a little chip on my shoulder of the fact of where were you all 3 years ago, and so with DOD and just being that close, like I said, I don't think me and Schlack, that story's done. I really felt like I came out of that bloody water baptized in a new, and I really think there's something there that I have to finish. And so we'll see that on October 18th or where that leads. Um, and then October, I don't know how soon it's coming out, but October 3rd and 4th, I will be back to back. I'm going to be fighting my Blood Fighter brother in a trick or treat death match at Pro Wrestling Revolver in Dayton, Ohio,
Mm.
against Alex Colon. And then the following day, the Necro Butcher and I will be at King of the Death match in a non-tournament last man stand.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yep.
And I think that, like you were saying about CZW, just to add my 2 cents into it for what it's worth, since they're, so-called, I guess, resurgence the past few years, I feel like in my eyes and a lot of people's eyes, you are one of the pillars of those guys that's been putting in the work and, grinding. But like you said, you're not satisfied and, you're going to keep on doing what you got to do to get where you need to be. So,
Yeah, I mean, and there's matches there. Like I can be appreciative. Two things can exist at the same time. I can have a chip on my shoulder, but also be appreciative for opportunities that are present because of CZW. I've never fought Ricky Shane Page one on, and he is one of the greatest deathmatch wrestlers of all time. And there was really not a place where I could ever cross paths with him, and now he's right there, uh, in the combat zone. Uh, Same with sharpening my tools against Eric Ryan. Every time I fight Eric Ryan, I feel like I get better. Um, he's the undisputed king of the death matches. Um, there's Drake Younger. I've never fought in Drake Younger one on one. Akira is at this next level, and he's somebody I want to be able to fight one on one. Everyone in that tournament I didn't get to fight, and then again, like I said, with Schlack and these other opponents that I'm thankful for the opportunities, and I'm thankful that they're here at the combat zone. They're seeing it, but at the same time, you're coming into my house that I built. For a cup of sugar, walk out. You know,
Everyone's
pay
on
the-
notice.
Yeah, pay the penance.
I appreciate you stopping into the bingo hall and blazing with your boy Young Lurch. Is there any last words from Dred that you want to put out into the ether before we go?
No, other than that, catch me at all these shows, and yeah, we'll see what happens in the rest of the year here for old Dred.
Well, this has been Dred and your boy Young Lurch.